Now, today I want to talk about something that was really cool to me, and I just kind of discovered a name for this, but I'd always felt it. And basically, this thing I want to talk about today is one of the reason that most women they kind of stay comfortably numb in their weight loss journey, where they are kind of, like I said, that numb feeling. So they're not really unhappy, but not really happy. So they're in this no man's land of never really making a decision or losing the same 5, 10, maybe 20 pounds on and off for the rest of their life. And this is a really cool way that explains what's going on. So if you feel like that's kind of been you teeter-tottering for quite a while, and you're kind of just numb to it, you're not super unhappy, but you're not like ecstatic either. You're kind of in the middle and indifferent about your weight loss journey. This talk today could be the thing that kind of kicks you in the butt and sparks it and really explains to you why and what's been going on. So I was scrolling through Instagram, and my newsfeed is full of motivational quotes and scientific studies and stuff like that. And I came across one motivational video, and it was talking about something called the region beta paradox. I believe that was the name. Name's not super important. The concept is just really cool. And basically, what this concept was talking about is it was saying sometimes okay situations are actually worse than bad situations. So let me say that again. Sometimes okay situations are actually worse off for you than straight out, flat out bad situations. And the example in the video they gave was this. So let's say you're in a bad relationship or a bad marriage, and you know you should leave. You guys fight all the time, but bills are paid, the house is paid off, you're staying together for the kids, you know, it's manageable, right? Where that's kind of an okay situation, right? You'd be better off if you left, but because it's okay and it's not awful and horrible, you don't leave, right? Where if the relationship was bad and worse and you were screaming at each other every day and bills couldn't be paid and maybe there was some abuse, that is a horrible, worse situation. And what this video was stating was that type of environment is actually going to be an environment that would promote somebody to move and make change more. So the idea here is if you are in an okay predicament versus a bad predicament, only one of those really gives you the power to actually make a life-changing decision, which I thought was very cool. And maybe you can relate to this. Have you ever been broken up with, or maybe you know somebody who's been broken up with, and then they'll say something like, oh, I wish he cheated on me because that way I could get over him faster. Or I wish he was a bad guy, that way I could get over him faster. Right? You ever hear that before? When someone's a good guy and they break up with you, it's harder to get over them. And so that's kind of the same idea with this region beta paradox. It's that if you are struggling along your weight loss journey and you've yet to be able to figure this stuff out, then what's probably happening is you're just in this okay situation where, you know, maybe you don't like what you see in the mirror. Maybe there's some rolls that you can grab. Maybe your pants are getting a little tighter. Maybe you don't like the number on the scale. Maybe your energy is dropping, but you know, your blood work is fine. You're not on medication. The doctor says you're not going to have a heart attack. You know, it's not horrible. And because of that, we are blind to the fact of how badly we do need to change. And therefore we don't change, or we don't change with as much urgency as would be needed to be successful. And this is really crazy because I bet if you're listening to me, you can relate to this in some way. Because you're just okay, you're not doing much about it. It's not bad enough to have to make a decision, but it's not good enough to not think about it. So it's really uncomfortable because now it's on your mind quite often. You know, if you're anything like I was before I lost my 80 pounds, I was thinking about my weight and my reflection. I'd check my reflection when I walked through or walked past store windows, and I would see, and I would just be, you know, mortified by my reflection. And I was always thinking about it, but it came in spurts. It wasn't all the time because it was only in spurts. And because overall, you know, I was wearing stretchy clothing, so nothing was really super tight and uncomfortable on me. I was more of a homebody, so I didn't really go out and be very social. So I didn't have to dress up and feel uncomfortable dressing up, or see new people and have them judge me for my weight gain that they noticed. So I wasn't really confronted with the uncomfortable reality of having gained so much weight and being so unhealthy and being dangerously unhappy. I just wasn't confronted with that every day. And so therefore, I lost weight slower, or I didn't lose weight. And my journey was much, much longer than it needed to be because I was in such an okay situation. So, you know, what we can take away from this is turn your okay situation into a bad situation. Shift your perspective to make it seem worse than you feel that it is. Because let me tell you from personal experience, any excess body fat on you is dangerous. Whether your blood levels are fine, whether the doctor has said you're fine, whether you feel fine, it is still sitting on you, and there is something stewing. There's something stewing that is going to come up and hurt you. It's just a matter of when. So it is dangerous. It is a matter of life and death. It is a matter of happiness and living your life for the rest of your life unhappy. Like, it really is that important. And then until we shift that view, a lot of women only stay in that okay comfort zone, and we are comfortably numb to how unhappy, unhealthy, unproductive, inefficient, how giving ourselves to everybody else and not taking any time for ourselves, how detrimental it really has been to the quality of our life. Because I guarantee you, you know that you are not the best version of you right now. And I am not the best version of me right now. There's always levels, there's always progressions. And so if that is the case, then you are not living the highest quality life that you possibly could be. And therefore, that thought should be enough to kind of get your butt in gear and be your source of motivation when you really, really need it. And if that's not the case, if that's not the thing that sparks a fire under your butt, then you haven't usually given it much thought. And so it's not a fully formed thought or idea or vision, right? Cast a future that doesn't look bright. Really think about where you're going to be if nothing changes. What make your situation worse instead of just okay. Then you don't become comfortably numb, you become uncomfortable. And when we are uncomfortable, we move, right? When you put your hand on a hot stove, it moves. You need to make your life and simulate that hot stove environment. So we want to move. That's what we're missing a lot of the time. We're wondering why we can't be consistent, why we can't stay motivated, why we always start and stop things and fall off when things get tough. It is because we don't continue to simulate that hot stove environment, that uncomfortable reality of the present. We are forgetting about it. We are really good at distracting ourselves from it, right? Because why? Because if we actually sat down and thought about how uncomfortable and unhappy and damaging what we are doing to ourselves is, we'd probably break down. I've had that happen quite a few times in my past. I'd distract myself, I'd stay busy, I'd take care of somebody else, I'd take on a new responsibility, I'd work extra hours, X, Y, and Z. And then finally, when I had a minute to myself, I'd break down because I couldn't distract myself anymore and I was unhappy. And so it was actually through the simulation of, okay, this is bad, and I need to remind myself of how bad this really is in order to keep going and give me the fire under my butt that I need and that I have missing to be successful long-term, instead of just short-term for a week or for a month when I get motivated and I'm truly sick of my shit. You need to remind yourself of how sick of your own shit you are sometimes, right? Because when you sit in shit too long, it doesn't smell anymore. And I know a lot of women listening right now can resonate with that. When you sit in shit for too long, you can't smell the shit anymore. You don't even know that you are in it. Absolutely crazy. And another example of this, I was actually, in Facebook when they have the memories and they remind you of what you did on this day years ago. So a memory came up from 6 years ago, and I was at the time making videos with my husband for his old YouTube channel. He had a little gym business going on called Bara Strength, and we were making videos for the YouTube channel just to grow. We were having fun and get all the friends over, and so the memory was an old video we recorded, and it was the bloopers of one of the videos. So it was funny. There's lots of laughs happening in the video. But the reason I bring this up is because when I watched myself in that video 6 years ago, and I watched myself now looking at who I was 6 years ago, I looked huge. I looked enormous. I just watched this video today, and I could not believe how big I looked, because I remember filming that video 6 years ago and thinking I actually looked great. I was like, oh, I'm actually confident today. I had my hair done. I wore an outfit that I was comfortable in that didn't, cling to my arms or show my rolls off. And I felt really good. And now looking back on it, I'm like, holy smokes, I was really big. And at the time, it just didn't register that I was that big, that I was that far gone. I don't know if it was because I didn't look at myself very often. I didn't stare at myself and analyze myself. I don't know if it was because I chose more flowy options. So I never really felt how big I was getting. It was just crazy for me to look back and see. And what's interesting is that now that I have lost over 80 pounds, and anytime my weight fluctuates a little bit, so let's say I put on 5 pounds over the holiday, or I have an injury and I can't run anymore, and then I put on a couple pounds while I'm healing, right? Or my clients, when they get pregnant, and they put on that 20, 30 pounds, and then they got to drop the baby weight again. When we reach a new low with our weight, and then we go even 1 to 2 pounds above that new low we hit, because of course we fluctuate on the scale. When that happens, I feel just like I did 80 pounds ago. How crazy is that? Even though I'm nowhere near it, when I am even slightly above my lowest low, which I knew I hit, I just instantly feel like the same person. Because, and it's not a bad thing here. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, because what it is showing me is how much potential and what I am capable of, what I'm really capable of. I made it all the way to this. That is how much capability I have. That is how much potential I have. I can't not live up to that every day. I have to strive for that. That was the best version of me. Because let me tell you, the version of you that's lost the weight, of course you look better. Of course you've got more energy. But guess what else happens? You are a new person. You have to be. To achieve that body, you have to be. You're more patient. You're more calm. You are less reactive. You make better, healthy decisions. You're not as impulsive. X, Y, and Z. There's so many character traits that change on the road to that lowest weight version of you. And when I eat, like I said, even when I fluctuate a couple pounds above that low, I feel like the old me again. And it's not because I'm, stuck and afraid of being that fat girl again. That's not why. It's because anything above that, I'm hyper aware of my body now. I can feel where I put on the weight. I can feel where I'm inflamed and where I'm bloated. And it's crazy because I'm so hyper aware. And what's so cool is the contrast to how I view it now versus how I was in that video 6 years ago. I was completely oblivious to how big I was. In fact, there were people in my life that just kept calling me big boned, or I'm an Amazonian, or I carry my weight well. And looking back at it, I did not, but I believed what they said. They didn't think I told them my weight, and they were like, oh no, you can't weigh that much. So I was kind of convinced that I wasn't that big. But now, knowing my true potential, I now can see clearly, finally, how big I really was, and how anything less than my lowest weight is unacceptable to me now. I'm hyper aware of it in the best of ways, not in an obsessive way. I'm always thinking about it and I'm freaking out when I fluctuate. No. It is, I am set free. I can see my body for what it is. I have learned my body. I understand the fluctuations, and I strive for, I've actually seen what I'm capable of. Like, I've actually slowly revealed potential, and I can see it. And once you touch it, you're addicted. You now know that feeling, right? And I want to bring up a saying, and the saying was used a lot when my mother was a teenager. I believe that she heard this a lot. And that saying was, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. Have you heard that one before? Everybody says it. Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. Now, this has a very negative connotation to it. A lot of people don't like this saying now. They say it spreads a bad message, and I can totally see where they're coming from. But I have to tell you, having been morbidly obese and now being the fit and healthiest I have ever been, I can tell you with confidence, without a doubt, that nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. And skinny, I don't mean skin and bones, all obsessed about your appearance, do whatever you got to get as low as possible. That's not what I mean. I was tested. I was challenged. I surmounted obstacles. I never gave up. I reached rock bottom. I hit lows I didn't know. I had to rediscover myself. I had to work to sustain patterns and habits. What it took to get skinny, quote unquote, has made me unbelievably proud in myself. And I see it in all my clients, this newfound self-confidence. And it not just because they love the reflection in the mirror, it is because they feel like such badasses. Like, I just accomplished something that nobody can. that nobody ever does. Very few people ever reach their potential, especially when it comes to their body weight, right? We're stuck on this cycle for so long. And so nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. And I mean that in the purest of ways, because when I got to my lowest weight, I felt unstoppable. I felt powerful. I felt lucky. I felt like literally the world was my oyster and everybody could bend to me. Like, that's how amazing being fit and healthy affects you. It is addictive. It's in the most beautiful way. And that's why I would urge you to get your mind around that okay situation to that bad situation, have that bad perspective, not like, woe is me, my life sucks, this all sucks. No, but like realize the reality of how detrimental your situation is, so you can shift that okay to bad. So now we're moved. Now we want to take action. Now we have that fire and that deep, deep reason why, and the future, the bad future we're trying to run away from. Now that we have that, we can then take that and then fast track our results, right? Because we do need to get and lose weight as quickly as safely possible, right? It can't be the slow process. Everybody says it's okay. I'm okay if I lose half a pound a week. I'm okay if I lose a couple ounces a week. We say that until it happens, and then we give up because it's not good enough for us to stay motivated, right? So if we've now shifted our perspective and we believe we're in a worse situation than we are, now we're going to be moved and active for change. And then on top of that, we speed up our journey so that it does become closer and our goals do actually seem possible for reaching, because after a while, if we haven't reached them, they start to become impossible in our minds, right? I remember I was there. I thought I'd never lose my weight at one point, and I kind of just gave up for a little while. But once you get there and then you start seeing the results, and once you can get to that skinny feeling, quote unquote, when you feel it, even just a glimpse of it, oh my God, you never want to let it go. And that is the thing that helps you stay on track. It is knowing how good you feel, like actually getting over to the other side of the bridge, other side of the wall, end of the rainbow, actually reaching there and getting a taste of how amazing that life looks and feels, and that version of you, how amazing she's like a superhero. She's like Superwoman. Getting a glimpse, even a fraction of what that could be, is enough to make you keep going. You need to just see that glimpse, I promise you, and it is enough to keep going, right? If you look all around Rome and through Greece, there's these famous marble statues of athletes' bodies, right? Of their abs and their arms. They're everywhere, right? And it's not just because we're vain, and it's not because we're superficial as a society. It's because intrinsically, deep down, as humans, biologically, we respect on such a deep level somebody with a good physique. We respect it because it means so much. For that person to achieve that level of physique, they had to go through things we never imagined. They have discipline we've never imagined. And that's why we respect it. And that's why there's statues. It's such an amazing feat. Such an amazing feat. And I can't tell you how many calls I've been on with potential Fit Queen clients who just tell me, I don't think I'm that bad, but I'd like to lose a few pounds. And I can tell you that they never want to join. They don't make the commitment. And then they go and gain weight, and then they come back even worse off. Why? Because you have to be rock bottom or pretty close, or at least shift your perspective to view something like that in order to actually want to make a serious change. Because if you actually want to lose weight and you're going to try again, it can't just be another old willy-nilly try. You have to give it 110%. You have to go all in. You can't just say, I'm going to give this a shot. You have to rearrange your life so health is at the center of it. That is the only way that you can keep it up if health becomes important and a part of your life. It's very hard to stay healthy when it is not integrated into your everyday life. Then it becomes a chore, and then it becomes the first thing that goes and the first thing that we drop when life gets busy, because other things in life have become more important or been prioritized, right? That's why it's so hard for us to put ourselves first sometimes, because we're so good at putting everybody else first. And so the amount of women that I've jumped on a call with who just weren't ready because they thought they were okay, and they always came back worse off. And then they were ready to finally commit. And if I can save you that journey, If I can save you the journey of having to go actually hit a rock bottom and go actually gain more weight to get really upset and uncomfortable enough to dive headfirst into really trying, if I can save you that cycle, I want to. Of course I want to. I had to go through that. I remember jumping on the scale and bawling when I was my heaviest weight, and that's what finally triggered me to change. But if I could speed up that process, if I could have skipped all those years and the time and the money and the energy that I wasted before that point, and then just got right to that point, game over. And so that's my hopes for you from this call, is to, speed up or reframe your situation and your reality so it does seem like a rock bottom or close to rock bottom, or really worse and uncomfortable and damaging and detrimental if you stay in it any longer. We need to view that. That is how we move as humans. We move away from pain more often than we move towards pleasure. So create that pain in your mind, that productive pain. That is what women are missing. It is usually self-pity and negative pain that's unproductive and that actually sabotages us and makes us say, screw it, and then we eat the whole pizza because what's the point, right? Productive pain. Search for your productive pain. Skip all of the half-assed tries. Find your productive pain, use it to fuel you, and you will be amazed. And then taste that glimpse of that skinny, quote unquote, of that best version of you. And I guarantee you'll never turn back when you actually taste it. It's amazing.